Imagine running your own small business, treating your staff like family, and then discovering one of your employees not only tried to assault a coworker but also set her up to be arrested out of jealousy. What would you do? Fire him? Call the police? In my case, I did both, and then I made one quiet phone call that sent him crashing back to earth. Before we dive in, hit like if you've ever wished a workplace predator could finally get what's coming to them. And if you're new here, subscribe for more true stories of justice and revenge, the kind you don't read in HR manuals. I live in a country built on foreign labor. Every industry here, from construction to fine dining, runs on expats. They leave their homes and families, sign contracts, and live under the constant weight of sponsorship laws. If they lose their job, they lose their visa. If they're reported to the authorities, deportation can be instant. I own a small restaurant. It's not glamorous, but it's mine. And I take pride in hiring carefully, paying decently, and treating people like humans, not disposable parts. Servers, cleaners, kitchen staff, drivers, a handful of people whose lives are tethered to my signature on their sponsorship papers. I'm their boss, yes, but also their anchor. It was my weekend. I was sprawled on my couch, phone in one hand, half-finished coffee in the other, trying to squeeze the last drop of peace from my day off. Then the call came. Sir, Janice has been arrested. Janice, one of my servers. Bright, funny, hardworking. The caller said she'd been picked up for indecent exposure at a nearby restaurant. My heart sank. This country's laws are not forgiving. The story: police had walked in on Janice in a private booth with a man from the restaurant 2 doors down. Fully clothed but clearly busy. His junk out, as the report delicately put it. They'd both been threatened with deportation, scared half to death, and forced to sign a pledge not to repeat the offense. A slap on the wrist, but enough to ruin someone's reputation. It was messy. But it should have ended there. Only it didn't. That night, lying in bed, one thought looped in my brain: how did the police even know? Private booth. Back of the restaurant. Staff hadn't noticed anything. Yet police walked in, went straight to their table, and busted them. No hesitation. Somebody had called them. Point blank. But who? The next day, I brought Janice in. Gave her the employer speech: you know you did something stupid. Told her she still had her job, but this couldn't happen again. Then I asked, gently, who do you think called the police? She didn't even blink. Sami. Sami. One of our drivers. Mid-40s, graying, always flashing pictures of his young wife back home. Devout on the surface. Pious talk. But Janice said he'd been obsessed with her. Jealous. He'd tried to get her into bed, and when she refused, he'd tried to force himself on her once. She fought him off. After that, he went cold and curt. I felt the heat rising in my chest. Why didn't you tell me? Or a manager? She shrugged. I handled it. It stopped. I didn't want to cause trouble or have anyone fired. I didn't want the authorities involved. I advised her to press charges. She refused. My fists clenched under the desk. This man had tried to assault her, and now he'd tried to destroy her life, and he was going to walk away clean. Not on my watch. My next call of the day was to Sami. He came into my office, head high. I started simply. You've heard about what happened to Janice this weekend? He stepped in it immediately. Heard about it? I called it in. His eyes gleamed with pride. I stared at him, forcing my face blank. Why call the police? He launched into a sermon. After I dropped her off, I waited. She's a troublemaker woman. When I saw the man walk in after her, he is married. Against the laws of God and man. So I called police. I almost laughed. Not from humor, but disbelief. This self-righteous hypocrite had stalked a woman he'd assaulted, then tried to ruin her life under the banner of morality. I leaned forward, voice low. Why didn't you call your manager? Or me? Why make it my problem what she does in her free time? Silence. Head down. Counting his shoes. I dropped the hammer. Sami, I know why. Janice told me everything. You disgust me. I'm sorry we ever hired you. He mumbled, actually mumbled, I only tried once, sir. I saw red. But I didn't slap him. I didn't shout. I handed him a one-way ticket home, leaving in 4 hours, and said, get out. He left, deflated. But for me, firing him wasn't enough. Not after what he'd done. On his CV, when we first hired him, there'd been a house phone number. I'd used it to call him for the interview. His wife lived there with his mother. I waited until the flight was airborne. Then I dialed. A woman answered. Perfect English, slight accent. Hello. Hello, Mrs. Sami. I'm your husband's employer. Well, his former employer. Just so you know, I fired him a few hours ago. He's on a flight home right now. Flight number is XXXX. He'll arrive at XXXX. I wanted you to know why. A pause. Breathless. I was forced to fire him because he attempted to rape a fellow employee half his age. Her gasp was sharp, like a door slamming in my ear. Before she could speak, I hung up. I set the phone down, palms sweating. The room felt still. Air heavy. Part of me felt guilty. Had I gone too far? But then I pictured Janice's face when she told me what he'd done. The shame. The fear. The fact that she'd chosen silence to protect him. No. I hadn't gone too far. I'd done what the system here never would. Across the ocean, somewhere between takeoff and landing, Sami was sitting in a cramped seat, tray table up, thinking he'd gotten away with it. And waiting for him at the airport was a wife who now knew everything. I never heard from Sami again. Never needed to. The last image in my mind is that gasp on the phone, the sound of a life cracking open. He'd tried to ruin Janice. Instead, he lost his job, his visa, his reputation, and his marriage, all in one day. And Janice? She kept her job. Kept her dignity. And never had to see him again. In the end, Sami thought he'd played me. That he'd played God. He stalked a woman, tried to assault her, then tried to destroy her life when she moved on. But with one ticket and one phone call, I sent him home to face the one person whose opinion mattered most to him, his wife. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't call the police. I just told the truth to the one person he couldn't lie to. Sometimes justice isn't about courts or charges. Sometimes it's about using the power you do have to protect someone who can't protect themselves. Sami got to go home. But he didn't get to go home as the man he pretended to be. If you've ever had to stand up for someone when the system wouldn't, drop your story in the comments. I read every one. And if you want more real stories of quiet revenge and unexpected justice, hit like and subscribe. We've got plenty more coming.